Hey you guys, happy summer. It's Deets with Mercy's Journaled. It's exciting times over here, but before I get into why, welcome to all of you. We're glad that you've popped by, especially today. I'm so excited. We began hosting a Bible journaling summer giveaway over on Instagram. We tried to make it as well-rounded as possible for someone who has been Bible journaling for a while now, the one who has just barely getting their feet wet, and everyone in between. I hope you'll enter. This is a super package of goodies. A huge chunk of the giveaway is distressed crayons, which I'm using today in my journaling. I usually do full-size backgrounds because these create color, depth, and variety without covering up the text from which I'm making stuff. I want to leave that available to be able to see where it was God touched me and renewed my mind from His Word. The start of this process is Gesso. This is Art Basics Clear Gesso, which I will link below. It suffices to say, after doing dozens of pages this way, distressed crayons blend and meld well with something underneath, and that's why I put a couple of coats down. I haven't found an easier way to apply gesso yet, so I use a simple card swipe cross-hatch method for application. Say that 5 times fast. Then we dry and apply the second coat. And the reason for the second coat is to ensure full coverage, especially the edges. Though to be sure, it's not worth stressing over. And then we dry again. Yay, first step done. Now for the fun part. The array of coloring will kind of go as follows. I want to trap some light down at the bottom right corner and then move outward toward darker hues. I love when sentiments are spotlighted. Today's will be in Colossians. It's one of those teeny tiny letters from Paul, but wow, the potency of it. Let me read this little bit that grabbed me and jerked some tears of thankfulness from me in the process. He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. For by Him all things were created in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities, all things were created through Him and for Him. And He was before all things, and in Him all things hold together. And He is the head of the body, the church. He is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in everything He might be preeminent. For in Him all the fullness of God was pleased to dwell, and through Him to reconcile to Himself all things, whether on earth or in heaven, making peace by the blood of His cross. And you, who were once alienated and hostile in mind, doing evil deeds, He has now reconciled in His body of flesh by His death, in order to present you holy and blameless and above reproach before Him, if indeed you continue in the faith, stable and steadfast, not shifting from the hope of the gospel that you heard, which has been proclaimed in all creation under heaven, and of which I, Paul, became a minister. The he and the him and his referenced here is Christ, and He is decorated here with terms of supremeness and royalty, total authority, high esteem. These verses are telling us that Jesus, from the beginning, is the creator. He is the sustainer of all things, and He is the fullness of the Godhead in bodily form, all things being subject to His rule. So Paul is taking us on a little journey as best he can to align our thoughts around who Jesus is in relationship to us. Our background is coming along. You can see the second round of color. I go deeper with the hues to get that gradient I was talking about, keeping that right-hand corner as light as possible. The dark green and brown will handle the depth on the opposing edges. And voila, color is done. And now we can move on to the sentiment. Mighty Hand Stamps makes all kinds of sets of faith-filled phrases and terms, scriptures. This set is called Peace Words, and I'm going to send this big peace stamp because it's exactly what I'd want to stand out in the margin here. It's the point of my Bible journaling today, and it's the ultimate gospel goodie that the Lord reveals to us in this passage. We said before, Jesus is supreme. He's the greatest, He's the most, He's the standard, He's the rule by which everything is measured and weighed, and in terms of what this means for us, Paul makes it very clear. We have been found wanting. Verse 21 sets this tone with, "And you who were once alienated and hostile in mind, doing evil deeds." Yikes. Hostile, evil in deeds, alienated. Guys, I Googled that word alienated, and it means experiencing or having feelings of isolation or estrangement. This is not good news. Paul reminds us, however, that this mighty sovereign who coexisted as part of the triune God took the form of man. The throne he left to subject himself to humanity held its place as he walked from birth to death in the likeness of mankind, in the heart of the Father, and in the plan of salvation. This, you guys, this is the good news. This is why the tears of thankfulness, because I know I was once God's enemy, and I know that I'm still struggling against this heart of evil daily. I don't know the extent of my evil before him, but from what I can tell, Jeremiah would concur, our hearts are desperately wicked. We don't know how bad the disease is, and we certainly cannot cure it without the person and the work of Jesus Christ. Thus, the good news that even while we are still enemies with him, Christ died for us. Even in the hostility, even in our act of rebellion, Christ died for the ungodly. That's me, and that's you. And upon receiving this good news of Christ, mighty God become flesh to die for the sin of all mankind, our relationship to God instantly becomes peace. We are at peace with him. We are not enemies. He calls us child. He calls us beloved. He calls us his own, and his own forever we will be. Much love, you guys. God bless.